I want to talk about how I made my last two videos, how I made them not only technically, but also conceptually, and explain the process. The technique I used in these videos is an extreme form of kinestasis or graphic stop motion. As opposed to conventional stop motion, where an object is moved incrementally frame by frame and the animator has control over the object and its movement, the kinestatic technique involves either taking or finding photos of various subject matters, related or unrelated to each other, which have similarities in shape, geometry, colour or texture, and which are organised in a coherent sequence in such a way to create the illusion of motion. This method features prominently in the entrancing and dizzying music videos of Kevin and Paraic McGloughlin. Combined with Max Cooper's complex and densely textured electronic music, the three creatives are engaged in a spectacular artistic symbiosis. Other creators have also used this form of stop motion in different ways. Going further back to the 1960s, it exists in a more abstract fashion in the work of Stan Brakhage, whose shapeless, nebulous frames whiz and whirl in front of our eyes at a frenetic pace. It also appears in the work of Charles Braverman, Dan McLaughlin, and other filmmakers and animators of the late 60s and 1970s. For the Tree of Life, I went to my local park and took hundreds of photos. I focused on four main features that would eventually become sequences: bark textures, lichen, concentric circles in logs, and trees. Because I needed to meticulously organise and categorize all these photos, I decided to use DaVinci Resolve, as it allows you to tag media using keywords and then sort out the media in smart bins. Once all the photos labelled, I could create a smart bin for medium-sized yellow lichen, for example, using the smart bin rules. I then worked section by section, arranging the photos sequentially, looking for similar textures or colours, or arranging in order of size, placing them in a timeline, and swapping photos around by holding down Shift and Control. Because I was focusing on specific sections and only working from around 20 to 30 photos per bin, I wasn't overwhelmed by the hundreds of images I had to go through. Once the sections were complete, I decided to organise the separate sequences from small to big, and added a hyperlapse of a tree at the end to tie everything together. I also added some blurring towards the edges of the frame to better convey the motion. I realised that I had created a metaphor for the development of life, our beginnings in a primordial soup, from which sparked the first microbes, or what looks like half a chromosome, the egg that divides and subdivides and grows until it blossoms into maturity. This meaning or intention was not there at the beginning, and was only discovered through the process of making this video. For the YouTube video, the process was the same, although a little more complicated. I took hundreds of screenshots of various YouTube channels and pages, and then used the snipping tool to grab more precise screenshots of just the thumbnails. I mostly collected simple thumbnails which featured just the YouTuber, without any text or graphics. I categorized the thumbnails according to expression, whether they smiled or seemed angry or confused, as well as by position, head rotation, and hand actions. The smart bins allowed me to organize all the screenshots very specifically. I then arranged all the photos bin by bin. Once I was happy with the order of the thumbnails, I then had to manually and laboriously stabilize and align the faces so that it made for a smoother viewing experience. I ordered the sequences from the simple to the more complex, starting with simple expressions, then hand movements, and finishing with the collaged faces. Early on in the process, I knew I wanted to start the video with the following statement, and this became the driving force for the video, as I realized I had to condense 500 hours of video into 1 minute. I created a spreadsheet where I added all the duration of the videos I used, and found out I had only reached 144 hours. I therefore added the YouTube logo at the end, made from hundreds of thumbnails, which I created in After Effects using some expressions I found from this website. Both of these videos started with a simple idea, a concept, a cool technique, but through the process I developed a message, an expression, an intention, which then dictated and shaped the concept and the video itself. I'm not sure why I'm drawn to kinestatic stop motion. I think it appeals because the idea of creating order from chaos, of categorizing the barrage of data that saturates our lives into something coherent, is a very human reflex. We classify, order, file, group. It's how we navigate the world. We're constantly looking for patterns, similarities, signs, symbols. It's why we see dragons in the clouds, or Jesus on a piece of toast. What do you see? What shapes, symbols, things can you order into a cohesive whole?